In 2026, the Nigerian armed forces sit at the razor's edge of Africa's most volatile neighbourhood. One boot planted in the Sahel's dust, and the other in the restless swells of the Gulf of Guinea. This is a country that fights on multiple fronts at once, countering jihadists in the northeast, bandit militias in the northwest, oil thieves in the delta, and smugglers at sea, while still being asked to anchor West Africa's security architecture. The question isn't whether Nigeria is relevant, it's how insanely powerful it has become, and whether that power is sharpened enough for what's coming next. To understand the Nigeria of 2026, you have to start with money and momentum. Abuja has been steadily cranking the defence and security tap wider. Parliament approved a 2025 federal budget of roughly 55 trillion naira, about $36 to $37 billion, with a heavy emphasis on security, and the government rolled into late 2025, proposing an even bigger 2026 appropriation of about 58.18 trillion naira. Within that, the administration flagged a headline 5.41 trillion naira for the defence and security sector, a signal of political will, if not a blank check. This isn't pocket change. It's a bid to rebuild readiness after years of attrition and underinvestment. Zoom in, and you see how that money spreads across uniforms. Civic budget watchers and analysts break out a security and defence pot that pays the salaries of a massive internal security ecosystem: armed forces, police, intelligence, and paramilitaries, alongside a capital slice for new kit. Their breakdowns for 2025 show multiple trillions of naira flowing into this space, most of it to pay people, a meaningful chunk for equipment, and a still sizable wedge for overhead. It's not the spending of a superpower, it's the spending of a state that knows it can't afford to do nothing. On paper, Nigeria's active duty roster is commonly placed around the 230,000 mark, with wider estimates of total military personnel, including paramilitary components, reaching up towards 280,000. Figures vary by methodology, but the direction of travel is unmistakable. Abuja is leaning into mass, often prioritizing boots and blades for internal security over classic conventional posturing. That choice shows up in the rankings. Global Firepower's 2025 index put Nigeria third in Africa, behind Egypt and Algeria, and 31st worldwide. Take rankings with a pinch of salt, and maybe a plate of jollof, but they do tell you something about scale. But manpower only matters if you can move and sustain it. And here's where Nigeria's modernization story gets interesting. Start with the air power that stitches the nation together. In the last 5 years, the Nigerian Air Force has staged a quiet renaissance. 12 A-29 Super Tucanos, delivered in 2021, gave Abuja a rugged counter-insurgency scalpel, precision-guided where needed, economical everywhere else. Add 3 JF-17 multi-role fighters from Pakistan, inducted in 2021, and you get a modest but real bump in fast jet capacity. These are not vanity buys. They are instruments designed for the fights Nigeria actually faces. And then Abuja swung for a bigger refresh. 24 Italian-made M346 attack/lead-in fighter jets and 10 AW109 Trekker helicopters from Leonardo. Deliveries staggered from early 2025 through mid-2026, plus a finance package to help pay for the first tranche. The M346 won't suddenly turn the NAF into a high-end air superiority force, but it modernizes training, adds precision strike, and builds a pipeline of pilots on digital cockpits who can grow into whatever comes next. Think of it as a brain transplant for the fleet. Rotary wing muscle got a sharp upgrade too. 6 Turkish T-129 attack gunships joined the order of battle beginning in late 2023, formally inducted in early 2024, and by mid-2025, they were conducting their first operational workups in northern Nigeria. In a country where close air support can make or break a ground offensive, a modern, agile attack helicopter, mated with ISR and armed drones, changes the math. It also deepens a defense relationship with Turkey that now reaches from airframes to shipbuilding. On the unmanned front, the NAF's drone wing has pivoted from experiment to enterprise. Chinese Winglong 2 UCAVs began arriving by 2023, and the service has been training successive cohorts of UAV operators through 2024 to 2025. Reporting has also pointed to acquisitions of Turkish Bayraktar TB2 systems. Some accounts put the order as high as 43 airframes, though Abuja is typically tight-lipped on exact numbers. What matters is the architecture, persistent ISR, precision strike, and the ability to loiter above a fight where ground units need immediate help. In the northeast, that translates to fewer blind spots and faster kill chains. In the northwest, to a tighter noose around bandit enclaves. The army, for its part, has spent the past half-decade replacing old teeth. Chinese armour and artillery, VT-4 main battle tanks, ST-1 wheeled tank destroyers, SH-series self-propelled howitzers started arriving from 2020, complementing existing T-72s and assorted legacy kit. The VT-4s give Abuja a punchier tracked core for major operations, while the wheeled ST-1s and SH-series guns are more nimble in Nigeria's mixed terrain. There's internet chatter about VT-4 reliability. Even if some of it is overcooked, it underlines a broader truth. Buying modern armour is the easy part. Building the maintenance and training ecosystem that keeps it roaring is the grind. A second transformation happened on four wheels. Proforce, Nigeria's homegrown armoured vehicle maker, has become a staple of the Army's convoy silhouettes, from ARA MRAPs rolling in the northeast to the newer PF Hulk troop carriers. Proforce's exports to neighbours, and controversially, sightings of Nigerian-made ARA in Mali, show the company's vehicles have market traction. But the more important story is domestic. Every truck, hull and turret built at home is one less that needs a slow ship and a foreign depot. That's strategy, not just procurement. And the Army is finally growing its own wings. In mid-2024, it stood up an aviation arm with two UH-1 Hueys, basic, proven, and exactly the sort of utility birds you need to move teams, evacuate casualties, and chase fleeting targets. It's small now, but it reduces bandwidth pressure on the Air Force and tightens the loop between ground commanders and flying assets. Expect this to scale. If the air and land stories are about reach and response, the naval story is about presence and posture. The Nigerian Navy's fleet renewal has gone from PowerPoint to Pier. The 100-meter landing ship NNS Kada, delivered in 2022, gives Abuja an amphibious workhorse for logistics to riverine bases, humanitarian missions, and regional deployments. Exactly the kind of lift that a vast coastal state needs but often neglects. Meanwhile, two 76-meter offshore patrol vessels from Turkey's Dirsan are slated for delivery in 2025, after launches in late 2023 and April 2024, and successful sea trials. Together, they bulk up the blue water end of a force that has long been focused on littorals. Nor is that all. The Navy has been commissioning smaller patrol craft and air assets, including AW-109 Trekker helicopters, while refurbishing its MEKO 360 class flagship NNS Aradu in Turkey. Add locally built seaward defense boats like NNS OG and you get a layered fleet, from fast interceptors to OPVs to an amphibious LST, backed by maritime domain awareness from NMAS's Deep Blue project and Navy Falcon Eye surveillance. It's a network designed to make the Gulf of Guinea a little less friendly to pirates, oil thieves, and traffickers. Has it worked? The piracy picture is still fluid, but the trend line since 2021 has been cautiously positive. The International Maritime Bureau's reporting shows relatively low incident counts in 2022 and 2024 compared to earlier spikes, with a slight uptick in 2025, but still far below the peak piracy era. Analysts argue over whether credit belongs to Nigerian initiatives like Deep Blue and Falcon Eye, or to foreign navies patrolling the region. But for ship owners, the result matters more than the romance. Fewer kidnappings, more confidence. Let's zoom back to the neighbourhood, because Nigeria's power isn't just about platforms, it's about politics and geography. After the 2023 coup in Niger, the region split. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger pulled out of ECOWAS, formalising their exit in January 2025 and edging toward a rival security axis. That complicates border cooperation, squeezes intelligence sharing, and increases the chance that militants on the run from one front pop up on another. In plain English, the room got messier, and Nigeria's broom got heavier. Against that canvas, the armed forces of Nigeria have leaned into partnerships. The Navy hosted and participated in Obangame Express 2025, the region's flagship maritime exercise that knits together boarding drills, comms, and law of the sea enforcement with more than 24 nations. Nigerian units also plug into US Africa Command's Flintlock and African Lion cycles, special operations and multi-domain drills that hone everything from medical evacuation to cyber and long-range fires. These aren't parades, they're reps, and reps turn into readiness. The other half of readiness is reform at home. Abuja passed a new DICON law in 2023 to modernise the legal scaffolding for domestic defence production, and stood up a Defence Research and Development Bureau to better fuse the service's needs with local industry. If the laws become factories and the factories become fielded kits, Nigeria could bend its logistics curve in a way few African militaries can. It won't happen overnight, but the direction is unmistakable. So, where does all of this leave Nigeria's combat power in 2026? Think of it as a triangle, and for once, that geometry class finally pays off. First side, internal security dominance. The mix of A-29s, T-129s, drones, and MRAP heavy ground forces gives Abuja more ways to find, fix, and finish insurgent and bandit targets across an enormous territory. When a brigade in Katsina calls for air, a T-129 or a Tucano can actually show up. When a convoy in Borno hits a mine, ARA MRAPs and a medevac Huey can still get people out. No, it doesn't erase the problem. Nothing does. But it shortens the timeline from contact to consequence. Second side, maritime control. An amphibious ship that can haul tanks and trucks. 2 new OPVs designed for speed and endurance. Fresh naval helicopters and a bench of fast patrol craft. Bolted to an ISR grid from Deep Blue and Falcon Eye that yields not just interdictions at sea, but deterrence. The quiet kind that happens when criminals decide to stay home. Here, presence is power. Third side, regional weight. Exercises keep pipelines open to the US, Europe, and key African partners. Procurement ties to Turkey, Italy, and China diversify suppliers. Even as ECOWAS strains, Nigeria's ability to surge airlift, deploy naval assets along the coast, or stiffen the spine of the multinational joint task force around Lake Chad gives it leverage. A neighbour with options is a neighbour with influence. But the triangle isn't perfect. Sustainment remains the dragon in the basement. Spare parts, depot capacity, pilot hours, and the unglamorous business of keeping complex platforms alive in tough conditions. Armour bought in 2020 still needs gunners in 2026 who train like it's 2026. Helicopters need fuel and rotables. Drones need reliable comms and analysts to turn video into decisions. And the human terrain is its own minefield. Intelligence networks, corruption, and the sheer scale of Nigeria's landmass can turn any plan into a scavenger hunt. That's why budgets that look big on paper still feel thin in the field. There's also the strategic whiplash of the Sahel. With Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger outside ECOWAS, cross-border sanctuaries and weapons pipelines can bend faster than bureaucracies can. Abuja has responded with more cross-training, more joint patrols where possible, and harder unilateral hits where necessary. But the pressure is structural. Nigeria can't hire a bodyguard to patrol a shared frontier. It needs patient, grinding diplomacy alongside force. Still, the delta between Nigeria circa 2015 and Nigeria circa 2026 is impossible to miss. Then, overstretched airframes, a navy starved of platforms, ground units improvising against an enemy that seemed to multiply, Now, a modernized air mix, a resurgent navy with credible presence at sea, an army with better protection and punch, and a domestic industry nudging from aspirational to real. It's not mission accomplished, but it is mission advancing. If you want a single image of how far Abuja has come, picture the NNS Kada easing down the Lagos Channel, a flight deck humming and the well deck bristling with vehicles, an amphibious platform capable of shuttling troops to riverine bases, landing relief after floods, or projecting a Nigerian flag into a regional crisis. That isn't glamour, it's logistics. And logistics is how you win long wars without burning out your soldiers. And if you want the sound of it, listen for the buzz of a Wing Lung orbiting above a joint patrol, a T-129 thumping through a gun run, or a Tucano rolling in on a target after a CJTF team on the ground lazes an enemy camp. That symphony didn't exist a decade ago. Now it plays most nights. None of this is cheap, and Nigeria's economy still has to carry the weight. Oil revenues, currency swings, food inflation. Those aren't footnotes. They're the reality that turns procurement schedules into Sudoku puzzles. But Abuja has kept a steady hand on its security spend, even while wrestling with deficits, because the alternative is worse. In a region where bad guys rarely fill out leave forms, being able to show up again and again is half the battle. So, how insanely powerful is Nigeria's military in 2026? Powerful enough to be the indispensable force in West Africa's security architecture. Powerful enough to fight 4 different kinds of war at the same time and still invest in tomorrow's kit. Powerful enough that pirates, bandit chiefs, and insurgent emirs now factor drones and attack helicopters into their bedtime prayers. But also honest enough with itself and its partners to know that power isn't a finish line, it's a maintenance schedule. Nigeria has rebuilt a credible triangle of air, land, and sea power and anchored it in new laws, new factories, and new partnerships. The next test isn't whether it can buy more, it's whether it can sustain more. Training pilots until the muscle memory is second nature, keeping OPVs at sea more days than they're alongside, hardening logistics so that no brigade goes black on fuel in the last mile. That's where good militaries become great ones. And on a lighter note, if any bandit is still wondering whether the new Nigerian military is serious, here's a hint. When your hideout gets a visit from a Turkish gunship guided by a Chinese drone, while a Brazilian-designed turboprop circles with a laser designator, you're not in yesterday anymore. The times and the targeting pods have changed. So we'll end with this. Nigeria's arsenal is not a set of trophies. It's a set of tools. The question for 2026 isn't whether those tools exist. It's whether, when the call comes at 2 a.m., they're fueled, crewed, and ready to go. If the answer stays yes, then the country at the hinge of West Africa will keep bending the arc of its own security. One sortie, one patrol, one hard-won kilometre at a time.